Oh, all right. Even though all right. Get ready to go here in just a second. I got electronic stuff set up everywhere. Alright, let me see if I can get this set up here. Alright, good morning, sunshines. How y'all doing? Alright. I know that title, boy. That title, boy, catch you off guard there. It makes you wonder, what is this guy get ready to talk about this morning? You know, telling me that none of us were there. So how in the world can we really know that God created everything? So good morning, good happy Thursday morning to you. Hope your week is going good. Hope everything is lovely for you. Hope all of your kids have gotten in school and settled down, and everything's going good for them. The subject that I want to talk about this morning is the idea of God's existence. Because I don't know about you, but I struggled with this for a long time while I was preaching. I mean, I think 6 years after I was preaching, I went through a 2-year period of wondering whether or not God exists. This is while I was preaching, while I was a Christian. And what I have found is that there are a lot of Christians who sit in services on Sunday mornings who have a little doubt in the back of their mind about the existence of God. And what I also have found is that there are a lot of teenagers. There are a lot of teenagers who doubt right now that God is real. Some of your children may doubt right now that God is real, and they won't even tell you. I took a survey one time, a classroom full of teenagers, and I said, don't write your name on this paper, but tell me if you doubt God, or if you believe in God, or if you're not sure. And out of the entire classroom of people who had been in a Christian home, out of the entire classroom of about 20 students, I only had 2 people in the whole classroom who said they were 100% sure that God is real. Two teenagers out of about 20 who said that they were pretty sure that God is real. Y'all, listen here, that's not good. That either says something about us as parents and what we are doing or what we have not done, or it says something about just this concept of God, which is a very hard concept to digest. I mean, you're asking people, you're asking teenagers, you're asking adults to believe in something that they cannot see. And if you see my title says no one was living when God created this world, so no one can prove he exists with facts. Now, what do I mean by that? Here's what I mean by that. None of you nor I lived back during that time when God created everything. So how in the world can we say, factually speaking, I know God exists and I know he created everything? Do you know how much stuff we believe today that we don't even know is true? Look at the history books that we study out of. None of us lived 200 years ago. None of us lived 300 years ago. None of us lived 400 years ago. None of us lived 1,000 years ago. Yet everything we believe about history, we believe based upon what somebody has said to us, based upon what somebody's told us, and then we go around repeating that stuff like it's facts. And that's fine, but keep in mind, you did not live during that time. I did not live during that time. You know, we say Christopher Columbus sailed the world. How do you know that? How do I know that? You know, we say Moses came across the Red Sea. How do you know that? How do I know that? We say all this other stuff that happened in America in the past. How do you know that? How do I know that? We take somebody else's word for it. None of us was living. So in order for us to prove something by facts, we would have to observe it. If we did not observe it, then what we begin to do is put our faith in what someone else says is the truth. So, what do you do then? Where do you go? If none of us lived during the time where God created the world, what do you do? How do you convince yourself or an individual who doesn't believe in God that God is real? Suppose you got a friend who doesn't believe in God and they're doubting the existence of God. How do you take them from unbelief to belief? That's a difficult thing to do. But I can tell you one thing you can't do. In the beginning, you can't pull this out. Because if you got a person that does not believe in God, most likely they don't believe this here came from God. So when I'm talking to a person who doesn't believe in God, the first thing I do is I set this aside for the time being. I'll come back to it, but just not right now. Now let me go back to what I said earlier. I've been preaching now for 16 years. The first 6 years of my preaching career, I had no problem. Then someone asked me a question. Someone said, why did God allow babies to be killed in the Old Testament? Or why did God allow us to suffer? If he cares so much about us, why does he allow us to suffer? So, I mean, if God is so good, then why did he allow all these families in the Old Testament to be killed? When I was asked that question, I couldn't give an answer to it. And then that began the moment that I started doubting the existence of God. The congregation that I was preaching for did not know I was doubting the existence of God. No one knew it. Jennifer didn't even, my wife didn't even know I was doubting the existence of God. It's something that I carried around in my heart for 2 solid years. I questioned the existence of God. I mean, you can't even see it. Even Jesus told Thomas, reach your hand into my side and touch me. And Thomas touched Jesus. And then Jesus looked at Thomas and said, Thomas, you believe because you touch me, but blessed are those who believe and have not seen. You know why he said that? Because it takes more faith to believe in something that you have not seen than it does to believe in something that you have in front of you. So, to say that it's easy to have faith in something that you cannot see, that's not true. It's a struggle for people to believe in the concept of God. Even Christians or faithful children of God who worship God every Sunday. I mean, have you stopped and asked yourself a question? Have you stopped? And I want you to answer this question. If you were talking to a friend of yours who's an atheist that doesn't believe in God, and they tell you they don't believe in God, don't pull out the Bible. What would you say to them to convince them that God is real? Now, if you care about them, you can't say, well, they're going to either believe or not. You can't do that because God expects us to convince people that he is real. So what would you say to them? Now, you may start talking about this world and how it was created. You may start talking about the complexity of the world. You may start talking about the complexity of the body, the complexity of the solar system, and the complexity of the order of nature. And you may start talking about all that stuff, and all that stuff may sound good. But there's a different alternative out there, and it's called evolution. And according to evolution, all of this stuff that you see around you came over millions and millions and millions of periods by an accidental explosion that began in the future. All right. So what do you do? Now let me tell you what I did, and here's what worked for me. The first thing I did when trying to fully understand whether or not God is real is I had to ask myself, the first thing I asked myself was this right here. What are my two options for where I came from? What are my two options? I wasn't even worried about who God is and where he is. I said, what are my two options? And here are my two options. And I get a piece of paper. I got two options. I've got God on one, and I got evolution on one. Now this is going to look backwards on the iPad. I don't know why is that the case, but God, evolution. Those are my two options. There are no other options. Either I got here by this person called God, or I got here by this accident called evolution. Okay? You cannot prove factually either one of these. No child of God can prove factually by observable facts that God is real. That's the first thing we got to do is be honest. In the same sense, no scientist can prove factually that a big explosion happened a long time ago and that everything came from this big explosion. No scientist can prove that. So we got two things here, God and evolution, that no one can prove factually. No one. Okay? So since both of these concepts, God and evolution, since both of these concepts cannot be proven factually, then what does it come down to? It comes down to the fact that I got to have faith to believe in this, and I got to have faith to believe in that. I was not here for this. I was not here for that. So whatever conclusion I come to is going to be based on faith. Faith. Now that's important. Okay? It's important. So I got that question behind me. Number one, what are my two choices? God, evolution. Number two, neither one is based on fact. Both are based on faith. Number three, and here's the big one right here. Which one made sense to me? I've got, you can't see in my office, but these books right here, these are just a few of the books that I have in my office. I got boxes behind me that I got to unload just as soon as I get my bookshelf. But I got about 15 boxes in here full of books, and some of those books are the existence of God, proving the existence of God, atheism, why God is not real, evolution, why evolution is true, why evolution is false. I didn't read all of them, but I referenced all of them, and none of those books convinced me. None of them. It was only one day at the house, I was sitting down on my back porch just looking out into the yard that I thought about something. And here's what I thought about. And I can't remember at the time, I was 33, 34, I can't remember. As a human being, we judge the things that make sense to us based upon our five senses. The things that we've seen, the things that we've heard, the things that we've smelled, the things that we've tasted, the things that we've touched. If it fits within the realm of our five senses and it makes sense within the realm of our five senses, we can understand it, we can comprehend it, and we can have faith in it. We can have faith in it. Anything that doesn't make sense within the realm of our five senses, we push aside and we reject. For instance, let me give you an example. If someone told you that they saw a snake walking down the aisle in Walmart, the first thing you would do is frown up. Why? Because it doesn't fit into the realm of your five senses, at least one of your senses, and that is the sense of seeing. Because every snake that you have ever saw slithered on its belly. So anyone that brings you information that's outside of what you've seen, you reject it, you push it aside because it doesn't make sense to you. You can't tell me you saw a snake walking down the aisle in Walmart, because with my eyes I've never seen that, so I push it aside and I reject it. Okay? If someone told you they heard the wind singing a church song, Amazing Grace, the other day, you're going to push that, you're going to frown up, you're going to push it aside, you're going to say, no, are you crazy? Now, why would you say you're crazy? Because it doesn't fit within the realm of your five senses, specifically the sense of hearing. You have never heard the wind sing a song. So since you've never heard the wind sing a song, you don't believe that. Now, this is important what I'm explaining to you, because see, here's what I did. When I was sitting down, I started asking myself a question. Tony, what have you observed your whole life? Your whole life, your whole 34 years, 35 years at that time, since you were on this earth, what have you observed with your five senses? And I started thinking and looking around, and here are some of the things that I've observed. Number one, I've observed how wonderful nature is. I've observed that trees grow from the ground. I have never seen a tree magically just appear. I have never seen a human being magically just appear. I've never seen an animal magically just appear. I've never seen a gorilla produce a man or a gorilla produce a woman. I've never seen a fish turn into an iguana. I've never seen an iguana turn into a dinosaur. I've never heard of anything like that happening on the face of this earth. And so for my entire life, I have observed with my hearing, my seeing, my tasting, my smelling, my touching, I have observed specific things. Now, based upon my observance or my observation in my lifetime, what I did is I said, which one of these two ideas fits inside of what I have observed in my lifetime? So when I go over here to God, I see God created everything way long time ago, and he put it in order for it to function on its own, for trees to grow on their own, for fish to grow. They produce after their own kind, meaning a fish doesn't turn into a dinosaur, a reptile is a reptile, a mammal is a mammal, a human is a human. So when I read the creation of God, I see that, man, this guy named God, how he has it written out in the book of Genesis is just like I see it around me. That makes sense to me. Even though I don't understand the concept of God, because that's outside of the realm of my five senses, I don't understand what a spirit is or how a spirit looks. I don't understand how long a spirit lives. Even though I don't understand that part, I do understand the part of creation. It fits within the realm of what I've observed in my life. So I put that down, and then I picked up evolution, and I said, okay, what about evolution? Does evolution fit within the realm of my five senses and what I've observed? And I started saying, okay, evolution says a fish turned into a reptile. Okay, that doesn't make sense to me. I've never seen it. I've never observed it. I've never heard about it. Evolution says a reptile turned into a mammal. That doesn't make sense to me. I've never seen it. I never heard it. I never observed it. It doesn't make sense to me. Evolution says a human being came from a monkey. I've never seen it. I never heard it. It just doesn't make sense to me. And so as I started going down through this list of things in evolution, I started finding that there is so much in the concept of evolution that does not fit into my life experiences and what I have observed with my five senses. This does not make sense to me. Okay, so I have two things here that I cannot prove by facts, because I wasn't there for either one of them. I wasn't there for God, and I wasn't there for evolution. So I can't prove either one by fact. But I have to, and I need to accept one by faith. And the only one that I can accept by faith that actually makes sense to me, that fits within the realm of my five senses, and that fits into the realm of what I have observed my whole life, the only one of these, by an overwhelming majority that fits in that realm, is the concept of God. No, I cannot prove it factually because I wasn't there. But the way God said he created mankind, and the way God said he set it up for everything to happen just like it happened, and for the same thing to be happening right now the same exact way, y'all, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. Because God said he did it a certain way and that was it. And he wasn't going to change it and didn't have to change it. And the amazing thing about it is what God said he did a long time ago is happening the same way right now. Humans are producing humans. Monkeys are producing monkeys. Fish are producing fish. Reptiles are producing reptiles. The rain is still going like he said. The sun is still going like he said. Everything God said he did a long time ago is still happening. That's enough to convince me of my faith. But evolution says that things change. And that things are constantly evolving. Well, that doesn't make sense to me because everything that happened in the process of evolution is no longer happening. So what happened? This doesn't make sense to me. No, I wasn't there. I can't prove evolution by fact. No, I wasn't there. I can't prove God by fact. But I tell you one thing. I can have more faith in the concept of God than I can in evolution because what God said actually makes sense to me as a human being. And when I was sitting down that day and I was figuring all this out, it hit me like a ton of bricks. For the first time in my life, I really was convinced that there was a God. Or I was convinced that there was something out there other than mankind, greater than mankind. Because when you think about it, what I have observed my whole life too is that everything I have always saw around me has had somebody to make it. Everything. Either the house I live in, the car I drive, the clothes I wear, the chair that I sit in, the video cameras that I'm using right now, anything on the face of this earth had someone to make it. Someone to make it. And looking at myself, I'm more complex than anything on the face of this earth. And if I'm more complex than anything on the face of this earth, then certainly there had to be someone with a lot more intelligence than me to put me together. Evolution couldn't answer that question for me, but the concept of God does. And so here's what I would suggest. I would suggest that as children of God, we make sure that we have solid faith and firm in our faith when it comes to us knowing that God is real and being able to prove that. Don't just assume that just because you think you believe that God is real that you can actually prove that. Okay? No one was living during the time that God created all this stuff, so we cannot prove it by fact. So before we start talking to people about God, acting like we got it all down packed and acting like that what they believe is dumb and stupid, we got to really sit back and think, okay, now why do I believe? Now I believe God is real. I believe I can prove that now, not factually, but I can prove it in such a way the way it makes sense to a person and they take it by faith. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to ask yourself this question. If you're a Christian and you believe in God, I want to, throughout the day, if you got a friend who does not believe in God, how, without the Bible, and without belittling them, trying to make them feel bad, how would you convince them that God is real? And if right now you don't know, then if you don't know how you would do that, then how can you really be sure that God is real yourself? I don't understand that. And I think that, there is a lack of really fully understanding whether or not we truly believe that God is real. I really do. And for those of you just joining me, I took a survey one time of about 20 teenagers, and I asked them who all really believes God is real, who have doubts, and who know he's real. And out of the 20 teenagers that I took the survey of, only 2 of them said they were 100% sure. And I think sometimes we take this for granted, and we automatically assume because our kids going to church service with us that they 100% believe that there is a God. We got to start taking that for granted, y'all, because it is not an easy concept to grasp, to believe in something that you cannot see. And I think we need to take more time in trying to help our kids understanding, not beat them up, not bash them, because it's not a bad thing to doubt God's existence. It's not a bad thing not to believe in God. It's a bad thing to stop searching for answers. That's the bad thing. We all are going to get to the point where we question the existence of God. I did. I told you. I did. 2 straight years while I was preaching. But I didn't stop searching for answers. So, I hope, that some of the stuff, and if you tuned in late and you didn't get a chance to see everything I said earlier, if you have time, go back and watch the video and try to get the whole context of everything I said so you can see what I was talking about. And all I did today is basically explain where I came from, from my doubt into my convictions that God is real. So, anyway, I hope this video helped you a little bit, and gave you something to think about. If anything, I hope it motivates you to start being a little bit more in tune and aware of maybe what your children may be feeling about the existence of God. And if you have a child that comes out and tell you, I don't really know, don't let your red flags go up and your alarms go up. I think that's normal. I think it's normal, and I think it's a good thing, because then you can have a conversation about it in a non-judgmental way. Okay. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great day. I'm going to get off here and do a little work. And roll tides right around the corner. Don't forget, if you have some Bible topics or questions you want me to talk about, either inbox me or put them in the comment section, and we'll look at it. All right, Keisha says, do you think that even though I can explain why he's real to me, that everyone has to fear him for their self? Well, Keisha, look, everyone does have to come to their own conviction. Yes, absolutely. Everyone has to come to their own conviction. But at the same time, we have a responsibility from God to try to help people come to that conviction. And we can't force anybody. The only thing we can do is to make sure that we have, to the best of our ability, made the case that God is real. If we never make the case that God is real, then people, they never have anything to believe in. When Jesus told his apostles to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature, the reason he told them that was because there was no way for the people out there to be able to believe unless someone carried the message to them. So belief comes from the message. And so even though we all have to have our individual convictions, in order for a person who doesn't believe in God to come to belief in God, they have to have someone to give them a message of belief that can help them, that can aid them, that can pull them into the direction of belief. And that's where we come in as vessels for God, trying to convince and persuade people that God is real. And we can only do what we can do. In the end, yes, they will have to have their own personal conviction. That's what it's all about. In Acts chapter 2, verse 37, on the day of Pentecost, when Peter was preaching, verse 37 says that the people were cut to the heart. And they asked Peter and the rest of the apostles, men and brethren, what can we do to get rid of our sins? Pretty much is what they were asking. They were cut to the heart. So an individual personal conviction is what it's going to take for a person to be drawn into the belief of God. But that conviction is only going to come when we offer the information to them that can help them believe. You know, and so that's why it's so important that as Christians, we have a full and a good understanding of the concept of God's existence, so that when we're having a conversation with people about that and they start asking us, it won't look like, hey, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But if we know why we know God is real, and we can actually convince people of our faith in God based upon what we understand, that can help motivate them to believe also, you know. So, you know, it's not an easy thing to do. You know, it's not an easy thing to do, because a lot of times people don't believe in God for different reasons. Some people don't believe in God because how they were raised. Some people don't believe in God because they had a bad experience with churches. Some people don't believe in God because some tragedy that happened in their life, and they blame God for that tragedy. And so it's hard, you know, to convince people sometimes who are looking at it from that perspective that God is real. Okay. Lydia says, I needed this. I have 2 teens at church that don't believe currently. I'm sharing this video. Okay, well, I appreciate this. And like I said, they're not the only one. There are a lot of teens. And it's not just teens. There are adults. There are adults who sit in church services Sunday after Sunday, who in the back of their mind, they wonder. They wonder, you know, whether or not God is real. So I think it's a lot more widespread than we probably know when it comes to people believing in God. All right. Anybody else got any questions or any comments you want to make about anything? And you're more than welcome to share the way you have come to your belief in God and your faith in God. You're more than welcome to share that as well. Or you can share your struggles. And there are some things about this that I cannot answer, y'all. There's some things I cannot answer. You know, and when it comes to the existence of God, somebody asked me where God came from. I cannot answer that. I just cannot answer that. I don't even know what a spirit looks like. That's beyond my 5 senses. I have no clue. I don't know what a spirit looks like. I don't know what the concept of eternity means. I don't fully understand the concept of eternity. I don't fully understand the concept that God has always existed. I can't understand that, because that is outside the realm of my 5 senses. I don't understand it. But just because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's not true. Doesn't mean it's not true at all. You know? And it's the same thing with evolution. Just because I don't understand a lot of the stuff in evolution doesn't mean it's not true. But it just so happens that a lot of stuff in evolution just doesn't make sense to me. More stuff in evolution doesn't make sense to me than the stuff that God has laid out. So just because we don't understand doesn't mean, you know, it's not so. So anybody else got any comments, any questions before we get off here this morning? Appreciate the interaction that we've had so far. I'm going to scroll back up here just a minute to make sure I hadn't missed no comments or anything. Alright. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and sign off then if nobody have anything else. And I'll be back tomorrow morning with the Bible course on won't be a video in the morning about life, but it'll be a Bible course in the morning on the survey of the life of Christ. Lord willing, we'll be back in the morning at 9 o'clock. All right, well, y'all have a great, once again, one wonderful day, and roll tide again, and we'll talk with you all later on. Peace out. All right, y'all take care.